Jocelyn here. I'm just going to show you a quick little video on how to use HDR plugins to expand the tonal range of your images. So I'm going to switch over to Photoshop view here. So what I have are 3 individual files. I have already brought them into Photoshop for the purposes of efficiency, but other than that, they are just raw. Nothing has been done to them. So I'm going to select HDR Effect Pro here from our little menu, and off it goes. So I am selecting Add Open File. So it's going to go into Photoshop and take the files I already have open. If I selected Open, then you have to select them from the browser. I'm not selecting Create a Smart Object because that's going to add a lot more heft and bulk to the file that we really don't need. This is just a demonstration. It's going to be quick, dirty, nothing special. Just to give you an idea of what it can do for those who may not have already used HDR software. And of course, it's a little bit slow, but that's HDR. So here you can see it's brought the 3 images in, the dark, the medium, it's slower than I can click here, and bright. Okay, so we're going to leave it on the medium. We can take this bar and bring it darker, bring it brighter, and that's just sort of setting a midpoint for where we want the software to start. But I'm going to leave it at the default that it brought in. Alignment, ghost reduction, and chromatic aberration are already selected. We have nothing to do there. I'm going to select Create HDR, and again it's going back and it's going to show us the presets on the left. And we're going to see all the adjustment panels on the right as soon as it finishes working here. There we go. So it's presented us with a default image, which is kind of dull, kind of flat, nothing great. So we could go in and we could select any number of different versions and presets here. Some look really horrid, some look amazing. But for the purposes of efficiency, I have already selected a preset that I want to use, and it's called Bright Preset, which is pretty bright. But I'm going to actually tone it down a little bit here. I'm going to bring my exposure down at 10, I think. Bring it down 10. And I'm going to bring the saturation down to 5. And other than that, I'm going to tell it OK. I'm not going to make any further adjustments. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to select OK. And it's going to bring this back into Photoshop now with these adjustments applied. And there we go. We can see it. So it's opened a new file. So I now have 4 files open, and it's put the new HDR layer into its own background image here. But we're not quite done. I think I'm going to make a color version out of this. So I'm going to go now into Silver Effects Pro, and I'm going to select Silver Effects Pro. And so now we see all of our various black and white options available. And again, you know, we can pick from the horribly ugly to the maybe not so bad to the it's nightmare time versions. But I've already selected a version, and it is Fine Art Process. So on our Fine Art Process version, let's see if I have anything I want to do to this option. Brightness, contrast, structure. Yeah, I think I kind of like that one there, structure. We'll leave it at -10. And that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. We could do all kinds of different adjustments along there. I'm going to say OK. And it's going to bring us into Photoshop. And it's added a new black and white layer now. But if I look at this, I'm saying, yeah, I don't like the sky. It's a bit too grainy. So now I'm going to select the NIK Define. I'm going to add another layer where I'm going into NIK and I'm going to tell it to take the grain out. It's going to take away the noise. So if I select compare and move that, it's kind of hard to see, I'm sure, for you guys, but I can see the difference between one version to the next. So I'm going to select the brush down here to paint it on. So my opacity is up at 100. I've got brush selected as soon as it comes through. So I'm just going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to start brushing on that effect just to soften the sky a little bit, and then I say apply and done. Let's get this out of the way. There we have another version. Stamp it, finished. It's not great, but what it does is it shows you what can be done. We started with a very overexposed version, an underexposed version, and a medium exposure version. None of these versions were great, but we ended up with this. Not bad. Or we could say we ended up with that. So using HDR software to expand the tonal range of your image can be very, very effective. These three images were handheld images, but I did handhold them with the intention that I would be trying to HDR them. So I did my best to stay steady. I was on a little bridge that moved with everybody on it, so using a tripod was just not an option. And there you have it, using an HDR plugin to expand the tonal range of three handheld images.